Welcome back to Mr. Reed Math, where we're going to take some of the mystery in math and make it past tense. And I'm just going to jump right in and continue where we left off with video number 1. We are in the middle of a review for the upcoming final test for our class in geometry, and we're going to start this video with question number 8. All right, so number 8, you look at this and you go, yes, sweet. I remember how to do this because this is Pythagorean theorem. I see right triangle, and I see 2 of the side lengths marked, and I'm looking for the third side length. I'm not worried about angles right now. I'm just worried about side lengths. So I've got a side length of 6 and a side length of 8. And this long one here, if you remember, that's called the hypotenuse. And the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals the hypotenuse c squared. Okay, so a, it doesn't matter which one I pick. I'm going to call a 6. All right, so 6 squared plus 8 squared equals question mark squared. Okay, this is what we're trying to find. So let's, you can pull out your calculator if you want to, and you can do 6 squared, but I already know that's 36, plus 8 squared, well, 8 times 8 is 64, equals question mark squared. 36 plus 64, that's 100. All right, equals question mark squared, and I already know the square root of 100, but this is how you would find it. You would take this now, I would take the square root of this, which would just mean question mark, not question mark squared, and the square root of that is 10. So the question mark is 10 units. Okay, super easy for a first question. Outstanding. Let's move on to question number 9. All right, and question number 9 is very similar. We're doing Pythagorean theorem. We've got a right triangle. And now I'm going to call this A, I'm going to call that B, and this, of course, is my hypotenuse. All right? So question mark squared plus 15 squared equals 17 squared. It's a right triangle, so I know it's not close. It's exact. It's going to be exactly 17 squared. All right? So now, since we're dealing with big numbers, I'll go ahead and turn on the calculator. All right? And 15, I'm just going to figure out what these numbers are. So 15 squared is 225. 17 squared is 289. And then question mark squared is what we have. All right, so now I want to get question mark squared by itself. Okay, so I do that by subtracting 225 from both sides. Okay, so I have question mark squared, those two cancel out, and 289 minus 225 should be 64. It is 64. All right, cool. All right, so now I'm going to take the square root of question mark squared, and let me just remind you, when you do that, whatever I have inside the square root, and if I'm squaring that, the squared and the square root cancel each other out, and I'm just left with what the thing was. Okay, so the square root of question mark squared is just question mark. The square root of 64 is 8. All right, so A is 8. There we go. Number 10. Now it's saying we have a triangle, okay, and this triangle has 3 sides. They didn't draw us a picture this time. They're just telling us here's the numbers. Okay, so 27, 79, and 84. And it's asking us, is this a right triangle? Okay, well, let me see. 84 is the biggest of those 3 numbers, so I know that that's got to be the hypotenuse. That's what we're looking at. If it's a right triangle, there's your hypotenuse. So this will be out of scale, but it'll be something kind of sort of like this. It'll be like a 27 here, maybe that's a square root, it'll be a 79 there, and an 84 there. That's what it would look like if it's a right triangle. In which case, I would have to know that 27 squared plus 79 squared would have to be equal to 84 squared. All right, but is it equal? I don't know. That's what's going to tell me whether or not it's a right triangle. Okay, so let's take 27 squared, and I'm going to just do all this on my calculator. Hopefully you can see that. 27 squared plus 79 squared, what does that equal? That equals 6,970. Okay, now if 84 squared equals 6,970, it's a right triangle. If it doesn't, it's something else. So let's see. 84 squared, it does not. All right, so in this case, 84 squared is larger than 27 squared plus 79 squared. All right, that would be 7,056. All right, now I gave you this picture as kind of a reminder of how this works. All right, if the two sides are perfectly equal, then green check mark in the box, yes, it's a right triangle. Okay, now if we find out that the hypotenuse is too short, okay, or if the hypotenuse squared is too small to equal, then we end up with an acute angle. All right, but if the hypotenuse squared is too big, in this case it is too big, then what's happening is it's being pushed out because the hypotenuse is longer, then we have an obtuse angle. Okay, so depending on how that question's worded on your test, it's going to be which of the following is this triangle, and your answer would be, well, it's an obtuse triangle. Okay, so there's number 10. All right, number 11. Okay, now the first thing I'll point out is it says leave it in simplest radical form. Okay, and that's how your answers are going to be listed, such as it might look kind of like this, A, B, C, D. All right, and you have to pick which is the answer for a little question mark there. Now, if you remember that one day we spent talking about 30, 60, 90 triangles, well, this question's easy. All right, but if you forgot that, you still got hope. You can either look at it as a Pythagorean theorem problem, or you can look at it as a trig problem, and you can still get the right answer. All right, so let's do both of those real quick. All right, so if I treat this as Pythagorean theorem, then I know that 5 squared plus the question mark squared equals 10 squared. Okay, so let me see. So if I take, 5 squared plus question mark squared equals 10 squared. All right, so then if I subtract 5 squared from both sides, then that'll leave me with question mark squared. So let's see, what is 10 squared minus 5 squared? Okay, let's put that in the calculator. 10 squared minus 5 squared, and it's 75. All right, because 10 squared is 100, 5 squared is 25. That makes sense. 100 minus 25 is 75. So now I want to take the square root of 75 to find out what that question mark is. Okay, so second square root of 75, and it's 8.660254. 8.660254, and it keeps going forever. Okay, all right. I don't see that as one of my answers. Uh-oh. Let's try trig. Let's see what that tells us. Okay, and if I use trig, I'm going to use this angle, and I need this over here, and let's just do, so let me see, the sine of theta, well, let me see, this is the opposite, this is the hypotenuse, and this is the adjacent. All right, so if I do the opposite over the hypotenuse, that would be the sine. So if I do the sine of 60 equals question mark over 10, all right, well then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 10 so that I have question mark by itself. So 10 times the sine of 60 equals, that'll tell me what the question mark is. All right, so let's do that. 10 times the sine of 60, 8.660254. Huh, same answer. Okay, so I got a decimal. Now what do? I'm supposed to leave it in simplest radical form. Aha, well, let's try this. All right, what is the square root of 75? 8.660254. Okay, all right, so, and if you chose that, you would be wrong, because that is not this. That is not the simplest. That is a correct value. But because it says simplest radical form, we actually have to move forward, and there's a way to simplify that. The easiest way for you to figure that out is to plug the other values in here. Okay, so let's do those real quick. Let's do 3 square root 5. No, that's 6.7. Let's take 5 square root of 2. That's 7.07. Let's try 5 square root of 3. 5 square root of 3. And there it is, 8.660254. The reason that's the correct answer is because we've pulled as much out of the radical as we can. That's just, it's kind of like simplifying fractions. This is how you're supposed to treat radicals. I wish we had time to get into this, because honestly I think it's a lot of fun. But you just need to know, technically that's correct. It's the correct value. But this is the answer if you're doing it in simplest radical form. All right, I'm going to pause this video because we got a timer going off, and that's some banana bread. I'm going to go rescue that from the oven, and I'll start up the next video with question number 12.